But nonetheless, we found out yesterday, I did a video, the NBA and WNBA, very smart. Very smart. We said, they came out, they said, you know what? We're under a more moratorium here. Let's start sending out qualifying offers to free agents. Okay, now, they would have to do that under the current CBA, in which the salaries hadn't been increased, this, that, and the other. But it could mean, maybe, that it would start getting people the idea of, you know, what they want to do.
That's not hyperbole. That's the actual situation we're dealing with right now in the WNBA. Players who are vice presidents of the WNBA Players Association, the union negotiating with the league, simultaneously own Unrivaled, a competing professional basketball league. And now one of those owner players is publicly telling other players not to sign contracts. The conflict of interest isn't just apparent, it's staggering. And what happened this past Sunday reveals just how calculated the league's response has become. Here's what went down. The WNBA and the Players Association have been locked in contentious CBA negotiations for weeks. The owners put a massive offer on the table. We're talking about salary increases from a maximum of $250,000 to $1.2 million by the end of the proposed deal. That's a 6 times increase for top players, nearly 9 times for the average roster. Real generational money. But instead of moving toward agreement, the Players Association called for a moratorium on all league business. No free agency, no qualifying offers, no core designations, a complete freeze.
Bargaining agreement. We're seeing your ridiculous inflatable rats and freaking a digital banner on the side of a truck. And it's starting to feel like low-budget AA baseball shit out there by the Players Union. It's like, okay, come on. Stop this nonsense. And it feels personal. And it's like they want revenge because they think they...
And that's exactly what the league did. They ignored the moratorium request completely and started sending out qualifying offers anyway. Sunday morning, teams began the process like nothing had happened. It's a power move, plain and simple, but it's also strategically brilliant, because what the league is doing here isn't about getting players to sign those offers immediately. Nobody actually expected players to accept contracts under the old CBA terms when a new, much more lucrative deal is being negotiated. What the league is doing is psychological warfare. They're forcing every single player to confront a specific dollar amount to see their name on a contract, to calculate what they're walking away from while this negotiation drags on. Because there's a massive difference between fighting for abstract concepts like revenue sharing and fair compensation versus staring at a piece of paper that says you're turning down $500,000 real money. Life-changing money for most of these athletes.
It's coming. I mean, there's sports fans that don't give a rip about the WNBA that knows it's never made a profit. Why? Because it's been a running joke forever. And then, of course, it also got a lot of publicity when Brittany Griner got locked up in Russia. Yeah, that was a thing. But nonetheless, now everybody knows there's real money on the table. All right? Just if you go from 250 to 1.2, that's a 6.
And he's absolutely right about that shift. Go back 6 months, and public opinion was overwhelmingly on the players' side. The narrative was simple. These women deserve more money. The league's been underpaying them for decades. It's time for equity. That message resonated. People were ready to support the players unconditionally. But something changed as these negotiations became public. The Players Association started making moves that felt personal rather than professional. There was the inflatable rat displayed outside league headquarters, a union tactic borrowed from labor disputes that felt oddly aggressive for a league that's never turned a profit. There was the digital billboard on the side of a truck circling NBA offices with messages attacking ownership, and then came the rhetoric about social reform being part of CBA negotiations, which confused a lot of people who thought this was supposed to be about salaries and working conditions.
Kendra Andrews come out, and she's over at ESPN, And there's Alexa Philippou talking about the WNBA, WNBPA discussing a moratorium proposal that would apply to an upcoming league business, including free agency qualifying offers and core designations, which were set to begin as early as Sunday. Breanna Stewart said that while a qualifying offers may be going out, there's an understanding from all players that no one should sign anything because any contract signed would fall under the current CBA number.
That's the question nobody in the Players Association wants to address directly. The WNBA has operated at a loss every single year since its founding in 1996, 28 consecutive years without profit. The NBA has subsidized the league's existence from day one, covering hundreds of millions in cumulative losses. These aren't disputed facts, they're openly acknowledged by everyone involved in professional basketball. Yet, in all the public statements from players, in all the social media posts, in all the interviews about this CBA negotiation, that reality is conspicuously absent. Players talk about being undervalued. They talk about the league's growing popularity. They reference increased viewership and attendance. All of those things are true, but they never complete the equation by acknowledging that popularity hasn't translated to profitability yet. And that creates a fundamental disconnect in the negotiation. Owners are looking at balance sheets that show continuous losses and thinking, we're already offering to nearly 9 times the salary despite never making money, and it's still not enough. Meanwhile, players are looking at sold-out arenas for marquee games and thinking, the product is clearly valuable, why aren't we being compensated accordingly? Both perspectives have merit, but they're operating from completely different financial realities.
To start thinking about dollar signs. Dollar signs. Start making them think about money and the increase in money. That's all they've talked about. We want new money. We want more money. Well, more money and a lot more of it's on the table. Right here, I put this up this morning. How long before the WNBA players start chewing their own legs off, trying to get off a sinking ship? You've got a lot of women turning down a lot of money. $2 million by the end of the new CBA is a lot of bread just laying there to be picked up, and that's the whole thing.
Think about what that means in practical terms. You're a rotation player, maybe 6th or 7th in your team's depth chart. Under the current CBA, you're making somewhere around $100,000 per season. Not poverty wages, but not life-changing money either, especially in expensive cities where WNBA teams are based. You're probably still playing overseas in the winter to supplement your income. You're renting, not buying. You're one injury away from financial instability. Now the league puts an offer in front of you that would pay you $500,000 in year 1 of the new CBA. That's literally 5 years of your current salary compressed into 1 season. That's down payment on a house money. That's financial security money. That's I don't have to risk my knees playing in Turkey during the off-season money. And you're being told by your union leadership, some of whom have massive endorsement deals and ownership stakes in other leagues, to walk away from it because it's not enough. How long does that solidarity hold? How long before players start doing the math on what they're sacrificing while this negotiation continues? The league is betting that the answer is not very long, and by sending out these qualifying offers, they've started the clock.
That's the difference. They wanted some stability. They wanted some ability to change their lives. They've got buying buying home money on the table. And we're not talking about the Caitlins and the Asias and the Angels, Sabrinas that have all these endorsement deals. That's not who we're referring to here. I'm talking about the 6th through 10 player, 11 player on the bench. That's who we're talking about. And let's be real. What if the league was like, well, we're going forward with replacements and our rookies, which I don't know if that can happen. I know they're currently under contract.
This is where the leverage calculation gets really interesting, because the league's contingency plan isn't just theoretical. It's actually viable in a way that would have been unthinkable 5 years ago. The 2024 WNBA season proved something crucial. The league's newfound popularity is overwhelmingly driven by players on rookie contracts. Caitlin Clark, the biggest draw in women's basketball, is making $76,000 in her first season. Angel Reese, who generates massive social media engagement and television ratings, is on the same rookie scale. Paige Bueckers, the most anticipated incoming rookie, will be on a similar contract. Cameron Brink, Rickea Jackson, Camila Cardoso, all the players driving significant viewer interest, are making rookie-scale money. Now imagine the league says, fine, we'll proceed with replacement players and our rookies. What do the ratings actually look like? Caitlin Clark versus Paige Bueckers still happens. Angel Reese is still on the court. All the young talent that drove record viewership in 2024 is still playing. You lose the veteran stars, absolutely. But the brutal truth is that A'ja Wilson and Breanna Stewart, as talented as they are, aren't the primary drivers of casual fan interest. The data proves it. Games featuring the rookies drew millions of viewers. Games without them, even with established stars, drew normal WNBA numbers.
A ton of players. And I understand all those are not created equal, right? We cover Caitlin Clark on this channel. We understand the hierarchy. But you take just those people under rookie contracts and throw them out there with replacement players from anywhere else, guess what? The ratings are not going to look much different at all. I'd be willing to bet they would look no different. Oh, I'm tuning in for Caitlin Clark versus Paige Bueckers. I'm tuning in for Caitlin Clark versus Anya Cintron. That's still all on the table.
And that observation cuts right to the heart of this entire conflict. The players who are most vocal about the CBA negotiations, who are leading the Players Association strategy, who are making the boldest public statements, they're overwhelmingly veterans. Players who've been in the league for 8, 10, 12 years. Players who remember when the WNBA was an afterthought in sports media. Players who feel, understandably, that they've been underpaid for years while building a foundation that's only now generating real interest. But those veteran players aren't the ones driving the league's current growth. They're not the reason ESPN suddenly cares about broadcasting WNBA games. They're not why social media engagement has exploded. They're not why merchandise sales have spiked. The uncomfortable reality is that the league's transformation is happening because of young players who are currently making poverty wages relative to the attention they're generating. So you've got a situation where the players with the least leverage, the rookies, who are actually driving revenue growth, are locked into contracts and can't participate in this negotiation. Meanwhile, the players with the most leverage within the union structure, the veterans who serve as union representatives, are the ones the league could most easily replace without significant impact to viewership. That's not a sustainable power dynamic for the Players Association.
Wow. This was such a smart move. I mean, the league's not dumb. They know these players are not going to sign those qualifying offers, but it gets the players to thinking about their money and where they want to go. And I've seen people go, oh, well, there might be a 3-week off season and it'll be exciting. Really? I mean, the way this league's run, you need all the time you can get. Again, how many times have I talked about how Bush League some of these telecasts look, and I'm tuning into some Atlanta Dream game and it's like, am I watching single A rookie baseball with the quality of this broadcast? And just, there's all kinds of things this league needs as much time to get together and do professionally as possible. Tell me what you think. Peace.
Here's what makes the league's qualifying offer strategy so effective. It's not just about putting dollar amounts in front of individual players. It's about fracturing the unified front that the Players Association has tried to maintain throughout these negotiations. Right now, the public message from the union is solidarity. Players are posting on social media about standing together. Breanna Stewart is telling reporters that everyone understands not to sign anything under current CBA terms. The narrative is unified resistance until ownership meets their demands. But that narrative only holds as long as every player believes they're better off waiting than signing. The moment one player cracks and history suggests someone always does, the entire dynamic shifts, because once one player signs, it gives permission for others to consider it. The solidarity breaks down into individual cost-benefit analysis. Well, if she's signing, maybe I should protect myself too. If other players are securing their money, why am I the one sacrificing? It's game theory playing out in real time, and the league knows it. And here's the crucial detail. The players most likely to crack first are the ones with the most to lose financially, not the superstars with endorsement deals, not the union leaders with outside business interests. The role players making $100,000 who just got offered $500,000, those are the pressure points, and the league just applied pressure directly to every single one of them simultaneously. Think about the position this puts someone like Breanna Stewart in. She's a co-owner of Unrivaled, a competing league. She's a vice president of the Players Association. She has massive Nike endorsements. Her financial situation is completely different from a second-year player making $76,000, but she's the one telling that second-year player to turn down life-changing money and wait for a better deal. How long does that message resonate when the financial stakes are so asymmetric? The league is betting that the answer is not through an entire offseason, and they might be right. Because the other element of this strategy is time. Every day that passes without a new CBA is a day that players can't make off-season plans, can't negotiate with new teams, can't secure their financial futures. The uncertainty itself becomes a pressure tactic, and by refusing to honor the requested moratorium, the league is accelerating that pressure rather than relieving it. Now, let's talk about what happens if this strategy works. If players start signing qualifying offers, or if enough players pressure union leadership to accept the league's current proposal, what does that mean for the future of WNBA labor relations? Because the precedent being set here is significant. The Players Association tried to use public opinion as leverage. They tried to use the threat of disrupting the season as leverage. They tried to frame this as a social justice issue as much as an economic one. And if the league's response successfully fragments that coalition, it sends a clear message: emotional appeals and public pressure campaigns are less effective than simple financial pressure applied directly to individual players. That could fundamentally change how future CBA negotiations play out. It could make players more cautious about opt-out clauses and early renegotiation attempts. It could make union leadership more conservative in their demands, knowing that rank-and-file members will break ranks if the financial pressure becomes too intense. It could paradoxically weaken the Players Association's long-term bargaining position, even if they secure significant gains in this particular negotiation. But there's another scenario worth considering. What if the solidarity holds? What if players collectively decide that the principle of the fight matters more than individual financial security? What if the union successfully frames signing qualifying offers as betraying the collective good? That would represent a significant shift in professional sports labor dynamics, where individual financial interest almost always wins out eventually. The problem is that scenario requires players to trust that holding out will actually result in a better deal. And that trust is being tested by the specific structure of the league's offer, because it's not like the owners are offering poverty wages and asking players to be grateful. They're offering nearly 9 times current salaries. They're offering guaranteed contracts and improved benefits. They're offering revenue sharing tied to specific financial benchmarks. It's a legitimately strong proposal by any objective measure. So the Players Association is in a position where they have to convince members that a genuinely good offer isn't good enough. That's a much harder sell than convincing players that an insulting offer should be rejected. It requires players to believe not just that they deserve more, but that they have sufficient leverage to get more despite the league never having turned a profit. That's a complex argument that requires sophisticated understanding of sports economics and long-term thinking about league growth trajectories. And that brings us back to the fundamental tension in this entire negotiation. The players are betting on future growth. They're saying, yes, the league has never been profitable, but look at the trajectory. Look at the ratings increases. Look at the attendance spikes. Look at the corporate sponsorship interest. We're on the verge of something significant, and we want to be compensated based on where the league is going, not where it's been. The owners are saying, "We agree the growth is promising, which is why we're offering massive salary increases, despite never making money. But we need to see that growth actually translate to profit before we commit to compensation structures that assume it will. We're already taking enormous financial risk by increasing salaries this dramatically, while still operating at a loss." Both positions are rational, both are defensible, and that's what makes this negotiation so genuinely difficult to resolve. There's no clear villain here, despite how both sides try to frame it publicly. There are just competing interests, and different assessments of risk and reward. So what happens next? The league has made its move by sending out qualifying offers. The Players Association will have to respond, and their options are limited. They can double down on the moratorium request and pressure players not to engage with the offers. They can try to negotiate specific modifications to the league's proposal that might make it more palatable. They can attempt to increase public pressure on owners through media campaigns. Or they can accept that the current offer, while not everything they wanted, represents genuine progress, and move forward. What they can't do is maintain the status quo indefinitely, because every day without resolution is a day that individual players are making individual calculations about their financial futures, and the league just gave every one of those players a very specific number to calculate with. That was the point. That was always the point. The question now is whether union solidarity can withstand the pressure of individual financial reality. And based on the history of professional sports labor negotiations, the smart money is on financial reality winning eventually. The only question is how long it takes, and what the final deal looks like when it does.